Hello everyone, welcome to our third homework. Here we'll be assembling a 2D top-down level. You will have some NPCs that you'll be able to interact with. So far all of our examples have been reaction and action-paced games. A lot of games are just focused on narratives, and narrative is an important aspect of every game. So we will focus on creating a world and a story that will engage the player and have them hooked in. First, let's take a look at our preview example. Like always, we'll have to start by actually getting our files. So you'll go to this URL, copy the URL into your GitHub desktop or download the zip file, open it up in Unity, and we'll be met here. Let's quickly talk about what we have in stock. We have two prefabs. One is our player. Our player has a couple scripts attached to them. Our first is a player animator. It will control the player walking animations. So we will have two animations, an idle where the player breathes and walking where the player is going to swing around. We have a player dialogue that will be part of our dialogue system. Here the player will have information loaded from the NPCs and will be displayed in our canvas that will show the speech that the player currently has. The player also has a movement script to walk around. We have a box collider so we can bump into things, a rigid body to control the movement, and an animator that's going to be connected to our animator script. Our NPCs also have a couple things already attached to them. They have an NPC script. This will have the dialogue that the NPC will pass on to the player to read. This will also have a box collider, that's a trigger. If the player walks into it, this E button will show up, prompting the player to press E to start a conversation. And it will also have a circle collider so that the player actually can't walk into them. First, let's start with animating our player. Let's open up our animator. Well, animation window. And we will see that we have two different animation states. We'll create an animation for our idle state where the player will just shrink and grow over time. Make sure to click the red button to be recording. We'll make a minor adjustment in the scale. Make sure you're changing the scale of the actual sprite, not the player itself. Select that it changes all of them proportionally. Let's change it to 90.5. And let's change it back to 1. This gives the player a little breathing animation. We can expand it to make him breathe a little slower. For a walking animation, we don't have any extra sprites to make it look like they're walking. So what we're going to do is we're going to rotate the z-axis so we'll make them wobble. Let's make sure that we're also selecting the sprite for this. We don't want to move the player because that will move the camera with the player. So we're going to do -15, 0, 15, 0. And let's try it out. All right, that looks good. We have these animations, however, they are not connected. We will have to go to our animator window. Our animator window controls the interactions between the animations. We already have a parameter that the script is using. The parameter is walking. So all we have to do is connect these two animation clips. We can right click, make a transition. This will create a transition between idle to walking, and we also have to create one back. Now, this won't work by itself. We have to add some conditions. First thing we have to do is add a condition. Adding this parameter will allow our animator script to check if the player is in idle state and the walking value turns true, it will transition to walking. We have to add a condition back to return. So we can add this, and instead of having true, we're going to set it false. So if the player is walking and for whatever reason they stop, it'll go back to idle. One thing we want to do is turn off the exit time and turn on the transition time to be 0. We want these to be very snappy. So the second the player lets go of the key, the character will stop the animation and switch to the other one. All right, so let's try this out now. So our character can wobble around and breathe, but we still need to have some kind of conversations with the NPC. So let's take a look at them real quick. The NPC currently has 0 dialogue lines, so we can add a couple. We can say hi, and we can say how are you for the second one. Now when the player walks up and clicks E, hi will pop up and how are you will pop up when they click E again. And once they're done, it's going to exit. But the text we use is kind of ugly, is the base text that comes with Unity. What we can do is we can use this text that we have imported from a website to change the look of it. Let's go to our canvas. The talk text object has a Text Mesh Pro GUI in it, and it controls what is said and how it looks. Currently, we're using the Liberation font. We can't directly just plug this in. We have to create a font asset to be able to use it. So let's do that. You go to Text Mesh Pro, and you create a font asset. This will create this blue looking one. You could edit the way they look in here. You can change some variations on how the text would be displayed. For now, we're going to leave it as plain. We're going to go back to our talk text object and insert it. Now we have a very fancy medieval looking text. So we have a player, we have an NPC that can talk, but we need some kind of world to facilitate these conversations and story. To do that, we will use our grid systems and tile palettes. There's a tile palette already prepared for you. All you have to do is open the tile palette window and slot it here on the side, so for easy access. We also have a grid. There's 2 layers. There's a ground layer that's going to use the ground, and physical objects that has colliders that will make it impossible for the player to walk past. Before we start drawing, let's hide the canvas. We can click this little eyeball to make the canvas disappear while we work. And let's start creating our scene. So as you can see, with just a little bit of work, you can create a little village for a player to inhabit. It immediately creates some sense of story. You can see that there's like yellow trees in the background. That means maybe fall is starting to come. However, you're still like in the end days of summer. You have a couple houses. The story starts to create itself. World and level design are very big aspects of the game. Creating these environments allows you to be fully immersed in the exercise of playing the game, and allows you to explore and engage with the NPCs. Depending on how much details and dialogue you put into your NPCs, you will create a more rich and vibrant world. For this exercise, we're just gonna create a starting quest line, sending the player off to a different zone. So right now we have our little village. We'll create a little mage tower for a second NPC to exist in, and that will be the end of the exercise, but I very much advise you to experiment with the tile set and create your own big worlds. So let's jump into creating the second zone. Alright, so we have a little zone that our player can travel to. Next, we're going to create an NPC. We can copy and paste the one from the previous section. We can change their sprite to look like something else, so we can check out our sprites folder. If we check out the second tile map, that's where all the NPCs are. We can change the sprite to look like a wizard. We can change the scale to be -1, so they turn around. And then let's give them dialogue. So we can have the wizard say, young hero, you're the one I've been waiting for. Seek out the great apple of York to save us all. And that brings the players some kind of quest to go on. Let's just go back to our first NPC and give them a second set of dialogue to seek out the wizard. So we can have the villager say, hi, how are you? Head east to meet our grand wizard, giving the player some direction. The player goes through the little obstacle maze we put together, speaks with the wizard, and is set on their grand quest. Now we're gonna leave it here, but feel free to expand on this and put your own twist. There's plenty of different tiles and characters that you could create. Create a cool game.